Okay, welcome back. I have here Kasmi joining from Surulere. She's an event planner. I also have Olaiton Aminat joining from Sabo, Yaba. We have Blessing joining from Enugu. She's an accountant. We have Badamosi Abdul Wahab joining from Osho State. So we have a wide audience actually, which is great. We have people from Lagos and also outside Lagos. Thank you and welcome. Welcome once again to the webinar session on understanding your business position, as well as interpreting your financial statements. Okay, like I had earlier introduced myself, I am Taiwo Olanio and I head the business support unit at the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. Before I introduce our speakers, I would like to do a brief introduction about LSETF, who we are and what we do. The Lagos State Employment Trust Fund was established in the year 2016 with the sole aim to prepare Lagos State residents for employment and also entrepreneurship opportunities. So we work with these different categories of individuals to improve their skill, to upskill, as well as tackle unemployment. Our three focus areas at the business support units at LSETF is ensuring that we create access to markets for our entrepreneurs, which is helping them get their products, goods, or services from point A to point Z, reaching their target audience. Our second focus at the business support unit at LSETF is also access to affordable finance. While the third area we are focused on is capacity building, which is why we're here today, to improve our knowledge base, our skill base, so we can better prepare and better grow our businesses. We have two amazing speakers today. One will be touching on this particular topic in itself, which is understanding your financial position, while the second speaker would be letting you know about various opportunities, financial opportunities available at LSETF. Feel free to post your questions for the speakers in the Q&A section, and be rest assured that at the end of the two sessions, your questions will be answered appropriately by the speakers. So without further ado, I would welcome Greg Afemike from SSAC Advisory and Professionals. Hello, Greg, you can take the stage now.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Taiwo. Good afternoon, other panelists, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really excited to be here today, and I look forward to a very engaging session with you all. Today's topic is really centered around understanding your business position, interpreting your financial statements. What we've tried to do is simplify the slides to the best extent possible, so you all can follow. And at the end of the session, we will also be sharing the slides with you all, so that you can refer to them at a later time. So without further ado, I will share my screen so we can get into the presentation. Bear with me. Okay, I think the host LSETF, please allow me share my screen. I'm not able to share my screen. If you can give me permission to share my screen.
Yes, you may. You may now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so like I said, today's session is about understanding your business position, interpreting your financial statements. But before we get into the interpretation of financial statements, it's ideal to have knowledge of what bookkeeping is, what accounting is, the relevance of accounting to business, and of course, what financial statements are. So this is the outline for today. This is the outline for today, and we will be starting first of all with the role of accounting in business, why accounting is important, types of accounting, what financial statements are, components of financial statements, ratio analysis, taxation. Okay. Okay, so now accounting is a very common term. A lot of people speak about accounting, but particularly with regards to non-accountants, they tend to run away from accounting or shy away from accounting. But I'm here to tell you today that there's little reason why you have to run away from accounting, because accounting is very important to your businesses. So without further ado, let's know what accounting is. Accounting can be defined as the process of identifying, measuring, and communicating economic information of an entity to permit informed judgments and decisions by the users. Now, bookkeeping is indeed a fundamental prerequisite of accounting. I'm sure this you all, or I mean, I would imagine that we have a lot of business owners in this webinar today. Now, some of you that run businesses, of course, have your sales day book that you manage, your purchases day book. So at least bookkeeping would indeed resonate with you. And bookkeeping basically is the systematic and detailed recording of transactions. Now, why is accounting important? Accounting plays a very important role in business because, well and truly, it helps us to keep track of our income, our expenditure. It helps us in ensuring statutory compliance, such as tax payments, etc., as the case may be. It also helps investors to look into your business to see if they should invest in your business, and if they have invested in your business, it helps them to track your financial performance or operational performance. It also helps government to look into your books, because I mean, of course, when it comes to due process, there are lots of agencies that you have to file your accounts with, and it helps these various governmental agencies to review the performance of your business. So, like we have on the slide number one, it helps evaluating the performance of a business. It helps statutory compliance, and it helps create budgets and future projections. I often tell people, if you fail to plan, you are indeed planning to fail. So with accounting, you can establish your budget and, of course, compare that budget to your actual performance. It also helps us with the filing of returns. So, for example, if your company is listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, you have to file your accounts with the NSE. And I spoke about taxation earlier. You also have to file your accounts with the necessary authorities. So generally, it keeps you organized. It helps in decision making. It helps investors look into your business. It also helps with strategies, because at the end of the day, as a business, you have your strategy that you set out to manage. And this strategy is oftentimes refined on a yearly basis. Now, the financial performance of your business helps you to also keep track of your strategies that you would have established in the past. And in conclusion, without accounting, you will be in trouble. Now that we know the importance of accounting, let's now look into the various types of accounting. Now, we have financial accounting. Financial accounting is basically a look back process whereby historical information is recorded, analyzed, and reported upon. And we also have management accounting. Management accounting also takes historical records, but also utilizes estimates for future planning and is really used by the management of the business for planning and to help them in their strategy. We have non-for-profit accounting. Non-for-profit accounting is similar to your financial accounting, but in this case, it's so what sort of entities are we looking at? We're looking at religious institutions, governmental institutions, and indeed international organizations. We have cost accounting. Cost accounting is the determination and controlling of costs, usually around manufacturing processes and products. But we should all note that in our businesses, we all have costs that have to be managed. So that's something that we should all bear in mind, because at the end of the day, when you set up a business, you set up a business to make profit. So you should also ensure that your costs are effectively managed. We have tax accounting. Tax accounting is a subset of accounting that deals with the preparation of tax returns and tax payments. I spoke about budgets earlier. You can budget, using different methods. You can budget quarterly, you can budget monthly, you can budget half yearly and indeed yearly. But when you actually do budgets, you then compare your budgets to your actual performance to see how you may have fared based on your initial budgets. And it's very useful because you can also use that to compare your entity to other entities within your sector to establish how your entity is performing in comparison to those other entities. We have auditing. Auditing basically is the independent review of financial statements. Usually audits are carried out by external auditors. The way you have external auditors, you also have internal auditors, but internal auditors tend to look at things like controls, etc., as the case may be. So on this slide, we have a detailed explanation of what I have just basically taken you through, which you can refer to at a later time. Now, what are financial statements? Now, kind of recollect that I spoke about bookkeeping. Now, bookkeeping, like I said, is a prerequisite to accounting. And I told you that accounting is the recording and analyzing of transactions. Now, when transactions are recorded and analyzed, they have to be communicated. And those transactions are communicated in financial statements. So financial statements are written records that convey the business activities and the financial performance of a company. Now, with this knowledge, it's nice that we know the different components of financial statements. Now, we have 5 key components of financial statements. I'll start first of all with statements of financial position, which used to be known as balance sheets. We also have a cash flow statement. We have statements of changes in equity, and we have income statements, which used to be known as profit and loss accounts, and is also currently known as profit or loss and other comprehensive income. I will be shedding more light on these various components of accounts. Statements of financial position. Now, what is a statement of financial position? It basically reports a company's assets, liabilities, and shareholders' equity. What do I mean by a company's assets? Company's assets are by and large broken into two broad categories. We have current assets and we have non-current assets. Current assets are your near cash assets, cash or near cash assets. What sort of assets are we talking about? Cash, bank, cash at bank, and inventory, things that can very quickly be turned into cash. Whilst your non-current assets center more around your fixed assets. Now, together, they make up your total assets. Total liabilities are your current liabilities and your non-current liabilities. And with your current liabilities, those are liabilities that tend to fall due within 1 year. And your non-current liabilities are liabilities that tend to fall due in excess of a year. And together, they make up your total liabilities. Total shareholder equity. That's broken down into your share capital and your retained earnings. And what's your share capital? Your share capital is basically what you, as the owner of the business, you have contributed to that business to actually commence and run that business. And retained earnings is your net profit less your dividends. Together, they form your total shareholder equity. In summary, your statements of financial position shows what the company owns, owes, as well as the amounts invested by the owners of the business. On the right of your screen, I have a sample statements of financial position, again, broken down into these three broad categories. And as I explained, I spoke about the subsets of these categories: cash, inventory, etc., etc. So that's a typical statement of financial position. The income statements, like I said, formerly known as your profit and loss account, basically keeps track of your income and your expenses. It shows you how much wealth was generated within a certain period. Now, on the screen to your right, I have an example of an income statement which basically shows your sales, which basically is the turnover, the cost of goods sold, revenue from other sources, as well as expenses. So this is a typical income statement. It basically provides insight into a company's operations. It helps the business to determine the efficiency of the company's management, underperforming sectors, and its performance when compared to similar companies. So take, for example, you have sales of 100 naira and you have cost of sales of 105 naira. That means that your cost of sales actually exceeds your sales. That means there is a problem that you need to address as a business. Next, we have the cash flow statement. Cash flow, as the words depict, cash flow, the statement shows the movements of cash in a business within a period. Now, this movement of cash can be a cash inflow and can also be a cash outflow. Now, there are three broad areas where cash that center around cash flow that make up the net cash flow. One is the cash flow from operating activities. Two cash flow from investment activities. 3, cash flow from financing activities. So what is your cash flow from operating activities? Cash flow from operating activities is the cash that flows from your core business, from your daily business. Now, take, for example, you have an income. Your net income is your cash flow from your operating activity. Now, with regards to cash flow from investment activities, take, for example, you buy a parcel of land. Now, that would be an outflow of cash. But then when you sell that parcel of land, there is an inflow that comes in from that sale of that parcel of land. Now, the gain or loss that you make on that sale forms your cash flow from investment activities. We also have the cash flow from financing activities, which centers around the cash used for debt and equity. On the right side of the page, we have a sample cash flow statement, which shows the cash flows from operating activities, investment activities, and financing activities. Like I said, all summing up to your net cash flow position. We also have the statements of changes in equity. I described equity earlier as the investment of owners in the business. Now, what do we look at when we look at changes of equity? Now, it shows the composition of equity and how this composition has changed within the year. And what are the composition that we are referring to? Your share capital, your other reserves, and retained earnings. Now, looking at the statements at the bottom of the page, you'll see share capital of $55,000. Now, that is an issued and paid up share capital. But assuming, for example, you have shares that have been issued but not fully paid up, and you get money from those shares become paid up. You see, there's a $10,000 there that actually forms a new injection into the company's share capital. Recollect that I described retained earnings as net profits less dividends. So there we have retained earnings, but then key points of note, for example, you have your net profit, which is also the 15,328, as well as the deductions, the owner's deductions. So things like dividend payments, etc., would also come out of here. Under revaluation, so take, for example, you invest in an asset and you revalue that asset and you find that there's a revaluation gain on that asset. Then that revaluation gain is captured. And under revaluation, we can see a $500 revaluation gain on this statement of changes in equity. Now, we have the notes to the account. The notes to the account support all the components, all the other components that I have spoken about. And what are the notes to the account? You know, with your financial statements, they basically have rolled up information. You can't put all the information in your detailed in the components, but then the breakdown of those components that you have in your financial statements, that breakdown would be stipulated in the notes to the account. In addition, it also helps with information on the basis of preparation of the financial statements, as well as the specific accounting policies used. Now, with IFRS, there are specific things that have to be disclosed. There are specific disclosures that have to be made in the financial statements. Now, the notes to the account are where you actually disclose these key things that the IFRS dictates. that we should disclose. Now, with the notes to the accounts, they tend to be cross-referenced to key elements of the financial statement. Now that we have knowledge about the components of financial statements, we would now be moving on swiftly to ratio analysis, because that also is a key part of interpreting your financial statements. What is ratio analysis? Ratio analysis refers to the analysis of various elements of financial information in financial statements of a business. Ratio analysis tends to center around profitability, liquidity, and solvency. It helps us to establish the financial health of the business, and it also helps us compare the performance of our business to other businesses, perhaps in our sector, to see how we are performing vis-a-vis our competitors in our sector. And of course, when you do that, you tend to find that with your ratio analysis, you establish the problems that you may have, you establish the sorts of weaknesses that may come up in your operations, as well as areas of strength that needs to be enhanced. It also helps to determine the degree of efficiency in the management of a company's assets and liabilities. Now, we will be looking at about 5 different types of ratios. We'll be looking at liquidity ratio, profitability ratio, solvency ratio, turnover ratio, and earnings ratio. Liquidity ratio refers to a company's ability to meet its short-term debt obligations using its current assets. And when we speak about short-term, we speak about under a year. And if you remember my definition of current assets are near cash assets. So those are assets that you can very quickly turn into cash to meet your obligations. Profitability ratios speak generally about a company's ability to earn profits relative to the associated expenses of the business. Now, if you find that your profitability ratio is improving over time, then it means that your operations and your finances as a business has improved over time. So these ratios are very useful in calculating some of these things like profitability. Solvency ratio, I spoke about liquidity ratios. Liquidity ratios are more short-term. Solvency ratios are more long-term. Now, solvency ratios are also known as debt ratios. Solvency ratios tend to compare the debt levels of a company to its assets, equity, and annual earnings. And it shows the ability of a company to pay its long-term debts. Now, particularly where you have businesses that have a long-term gestation period, or you have businesses that have a long-term investment period, those ratios would be very useful, particularly for people or entities that may be invested in those companies. We also have turnover ratios, and the turnover ratio really centers around the firm's efficiency in generating sales. Earnings ratio is an indicator of how much investors pay for a share compared to the earnings a company generates per share. And this ratio is useful in valuing companies, also in establishing whether a company is overvalued or indeed undervalued. Now, on the right side of the page, you'd see the ratios that I've spoken about and the sub-ratios under these ratios. On the next page, we have the formulas to the ratios that I have just spoken about. And I implore you all as business people to every now and again take these ratios, calculate your own ratios, and see how your business is performing, because these ratios speak 1,000 words, that would be very useful to your business. We can't talk about financial statements without speaking about taxation. Taxation is an element that people tend to shy away from sometimes. But I want to say that taxation is very important, and I want to also implore us all to do what we can in paying our taxes. So, what do we know that taxation is? Taxation is a levy imposed on businesses and individuals. There are various types. Some of them may not be entirely useful to this session. For example, we have taxation like petroleum profit taxation and others like that. But I will speak about a few, starting with the company income tax. Company income tax is basically a tax that's imposed on financial income generated by entities. Now, in different countries, the company income tax, there are different rates to this company income tax. I will speak shortly about the different rates as it relates to small businesses, medium businesses, and large-scale businesses, because as we know, the finance bill was recently passed, and that finance bill actually stipulated should be have tax, basically tax on any gain made from sale assets, stock, bond, or indeed real estate. And in Nigeria, it's a flat rate of 10% of chargeable gains. We have property tax, and again, it's a tax levied by government on owners of properties. In Lagos, we tend to have tax rates. Now, I would imagine that some of you operate within the hospitality sector, and for those that operate within the hospitality sector, this tax will be very interesting to you. We have the hotel occupancy and restaurant tax, which basically is a consumption tax that's imposed by government on the sale of goods and services in hotels, event centers, restaurants, etc. Now, this is a flat rate of 5% in Lagos. We have value-added tax, and value-added tax is basically a consumption tax. It used to be 5% in Nigeria. It was recently increased by 2.5% now to 7.5%. So I think I need to share my screen. Please bear with me. Okay, fantastic. We're back up. So now education tax is a tax charged on companies registered in Nigeria, and this charge is contributed to an education tax fund. Now the tax charge in Nigeria is 2%. Is 2%. Now I spoke about the finance bill not too long ago. The finance bill was recently passed, and it has made major amendments to Nigeria's tax regime. I'm only going to speak about some highlights as it relates to some of our businesses. It's a very broad bill, and I also would implore you to also have a look at the bill as it may relate specifically to your own type of business. Now, I spoke about company income tax. Now, for small businesses, and who do we define as small businesses? Small businesses are businesses with a turnover, gross turnover of less than 25 million. Now, before now, small businesses would also have to pay the flat rate of tax, which used to be 30%, irrespective of whether you're a small business, medium or large scale business. But today, with the passage of the finance bill, the rates of tax for small companies earning a gross turnover of less than 25 million is 0%. That means you do not have to pay any taxation. Company income tax, I should say. Now, for medium-sized companies with a turnover of between 25 and 100 million, the tax rate is 20%. 20%. Now, with companies earning above 100 million, the tax rate still remains at 30% of chargeable profits. Now, there's a concept of minimum taxation. Now, a company that earns more than 25 million naira but makes a loss in the financial year, the minimum tax is applicable. But I must say that if every year you declare a loss, which means that you're making in excess of 25 million, but you keep declaring losses every year, I can tell you that the tax man may come knocking on your door for a tax audit. So we should also bear that in mind. Now, we must note that companies in the first 4 calendar years of business and companies engaged in agriculture, as well as small companies, that is companies with turnover of less than 25 million, they are exempt from minimum taxation. And the rate of minimum taxation is 0.25% of gross turnover. We also have value-added tax. I did say that this has now moved from 5 to 7.5%. And before now, you could register for VAT anything within 6 months of business commencement. But this has now changed. Upon commencement of business, you have to register for VAT. And indeed, failure to register for VAT attracts a charge of 50,000 in the first month and 25,000 in subsequent months. But please note that VAT does not apply to non-governmental organizations. Now, with this, this brings my presentation to an end. But just a little bit about us. We are SSAC Advisory and Professionals, a financial management and technical consultancy firm with our headquarters in Lagos. We have branches across various parts of Nigeria, including Abuja. We've been in existence for over 35 years, and we strongly believe in value-adding services and helping businesses do more with less. On our screen, we have some of our services that we support our clients with, and we can also support you with. These are some of our clients that we currently support. And on that note, I want to thank you all for your time. I want to thank you all for listening to me. I hope you have found today's session very useful. And this indeed brings to an end my session. And we will be taking questions at the end of the second speaker's presentation. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Greg. That was quite insightful and informative at the same time. At least I learned something new in terms of when I'm trying to analyze a balance sheet. I know I need to look out for what the company owes, what the company owns, and then also the company's investment portfolio. Thank you again. Before we proceed to the next session, I would like to crave your indulgence for 1 minute, please, to all of our attendees. I want to launch a poll now, and I would appreciate it if everyone can respond as quickly as possible. It's just one question only. we want to know how important it is to have an accountant for your business. So would appreciate it if everyone can participate in this. It would help us in terms of that knowledge. Okay, we have, okay, thank you all. I can see a lot of people are already taking the poll. We need more people to take this poll, please. We'll just give it another couple of seconds before we introduce the next speaker. Just give us less than 1 minute of your time. It wouldn't take much of your time. Thank you. We have 28%. We need 100% people. Please just give us less than 1 minute of your time to just complete this survey. Okay. We have 85% already. We need more, we need 100%. We need everyone to participate in this, please. 86%. Just less than 1 minute of your time. Just a click away. How important or how relevant is having an accountant? 87%. Okay, let's not take much of your time. We would proceed by introducing the next speaker. Thank you all to all those who submitted their response. I'm sharing the survey. 87% of attendees believe it is important to have, it is important as well as relevant to have an accountant to a business. And then 13% believe it's important, but not too important. Thank you. Thank you all so much for participating in this. I will be introducing our next speaker. Her name is Miss Ibade Akwide, and she will be talking to us on the different financial opportunities available at the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. So please stay tuned and pay attention. If you have questions, we would answer your questions at the end of the session. Thank you. Welcome, Ibade.
Thank you very much, Taiwo. Good afternoon, everyone. I believe you can see me, and I believe that you enjoyed the first session. I mean, it's very important to understand the financial statement, so that way you can actually know how to manage your business more efficiently. I don't know if you can see my slide. I would appreciate if somebody can, in the chat box, tell me if you can see my slide. I'm expecting to see that. Okay. Yes. Someone said, yes, I can. Yes, you can. Fantastic. So I would continue. And I want to believe you also know you can also hear me. Okay, so great. So today I'm going to be taking us on how to access finance through the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. Taiwo at the beginning told us what the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund is about. What I'll focus on is to say that really what is important for us is through our loan programs, which is what I'll be talking about. I would like you to know that we help Lagos State residents realize their aspirations by providing leverage and access to finance. So what I'll just try to say in a nutshell is, even if we cannot give you funding directly, we can always match you to would-be funders of your business. So it's important to follow us on social media. It's important to be engaged through our different platforms, because that way you may get to see or hear, of different opportunities that are out there. even in terms of available grant packages or opportunities that we have. For example, we have one here at the moment, which is called the Lagos Cares, which is part of the World Bank project for Nigeria, the NG Cares project. So we actually support the strengthening of micro, small and medium enterprises through capacity building, access to markets. We are also predominantly an enabler of jobs. So we help Lagos State residents with jobs so that way, with reduced unemployment, we can have a safer Lagos for us all. Okay, so my role currently is head of small medium enterprises at LSCTF. I'll be speaking not only about our current programs for the small and medium enterprise, but also for micro enterprise. Okay, so these are the programs that we have running currently. We have the LSCTF generic loan, which is available to micro enterprise and micro enterprise startups. As we go on, I will go into more details on what micro enterprise and micro enterprise startup refers to. Now, this is just to give you an overview. The interest rate is 9%. And to apply for this, you go to loans.lsctf.ng. Then we have the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund W Initiative Loan. The W here stands for women. This loan is in partnership with Access Bank. So it's different from the generic loan. For the generic loan, it is just fully an LSCTF loan. Now for that generic loan, the maximum amount available is 500,000 naira. So peradventure, you need more than 500,000 naira loan at this point in time in your business. The other 4 loans are applicable if you qualify based on the requirement. So for the W initiative, first things first, you have to be a female owner or at the minimum, a part owner of the business as a female. So you have to have at least 50% ownership of the business. Now, what we find is that in some situations, Kolade, I see your hand is raised. I don't know if you have a question for me, but I remember someone is asking a question. Please, your questions will be answered at the end of the session. There's going to be opportunity for question and answer. Okay, so just keep your questions coming on. So for the W initiative loan, what we found out is that some people actually run the business, female running the business, but maybe at the time the business was opened at CAC, because we would need your CAC documentation if it is an SME loan. For SME loans, it has to be, you have to have a minimum turnover of 500,000 naira. I'll also go into more details as we go along. Now, the thing is, what we found out is someone comes and says, oh, I run this business. Possibly she's the one running the business, but maybe the CAC document doesn't show her details as the owner of the business. Unfortunately, we would not be able to process it as a W initiative loan. So maybe it was the husband that opened the business name or the certificate of incorporation, but he's not using that particular business name and he gave it to his wife. The regularization needs to happen at CAC for it to qualify as a female business, or at the minimum, both of them have to have 50%, or both of them have to be listed on the CAC document. For the W initiative loan, as well as the First Edu, EdFin, and Lip Tourism, you go to apply.lsctf.ng for that. So the W initiative loan is not specific to any sector. The only criteria, the only condition is that it has to be minimum 50% ownership. For the First Edu loan, like you can see from the name, as well as even the EdFin Edu loan, these are for schools who are mostly low-cost schools, and it is not for individuals who want to pay school fees. Rather, it's for the the school business to be able to, do one or two things in the school, either upgrade the school, maybe they need money to pay salaries or to employ more teachers, things like that. Typically, our loans are not for capital expenditure in the sense that, let's say you want to build a new building or you want to purchase an asset that requires a lot of money, because our maximum loan size is 5 million naira. Our maximum loan size is 5 million naira. I know that, yes, you may have gotten some money already. If you can prove that, yes, you have some money already, and then the 5 million will be sufficient, we can actually have that conversation. But typically, we do not encourage loans for major capital expenditure. It's mostly for small asset acquisition, maybe a small equipment, or maybe you want to purchase furniture, and also for working capital. Working capital in this sense has to do with things around having to maybe pay salaries, like I said earlier, or if you are into a product, you sell products, goods and services, maybe to purchase. So for the tourism loan, that is specific to those in that sector, the tourism and hospitality, entertainment, arts and culture. Because it is an intervention by the state government, Lagos state government, to help that sector, because they were, I would say, the hardest hit by COVID-19. I mean, we couldn't go for our events, like in Lagos, our O1 bed that we typically go for. We couldn't really go for that because, there was a lockdown, and then even after the lockdown was lifted, there was initially maximum of 50 people in an event, and then it's a bit relaxed now, but they've really been decimated. Even in terms of, because tourism is not really what it should be, people are not really coming to the country now, and it's not just Nigeria, across the world. So that sector is really, suffering, and because of that, this intervention is for them to be able to help them stay afloat. So these are the 5 loan programs we have running at the moment, but we expect to have more as time goes on. That's our plan. We keep on looking for partnerships. We keep on seeking opportunities to partner with others so that we can extend the limited funds we have at our disposal. Now, for all of those 5 loans that I showed you, they typically cut across 3 categories. That means for each of those 5 loan programs, you are either applying as a micro enterprise startup, as a micro enterprise, or as a small and medium enterprise. Now, as the name suggests, micro enterprise startup, you have to have not started the business, if you know what I mean. You have a business idea, you have maybe got into, or you've gone to a vocational center to train, and on that basis you're applying. So like you can see on my slide, you will see that for the micro enterprise startup, you do not yet have the business. It's still at ideation stage. You have the concept, but you must have gone for a training. So it's not a case of, oh, I know I can do this business. We need to see that you have not only have the desire or the passion, you have trained. So it has to be from a recognized vocational center. This doesn't have to be based in Lagos. It can be any vocational center across Nigeria or even outside Nigeria, but you have to show us proof. Now, this loan size is a maximum of 250,000 naira, and it is available to only micro enterprise startups in Lagos State. I know that by this I have answered for the person who has asked in the chat, in the Q&A, if this loan is for only those in Lagos State. For our loan programs, for now, they are for residents of Lagos State. However, for our other programs like access to markets, I believe, and even in terms of trainings, it's not only specific to those in Lagos. Like, you are benefiting from this, irrespective of where you are, whether in Nigeria or outside Nigeria. Now, the maximum loan amount, like I said earlier, is 250,000 naira. And the maximum loan tenure is 15 months with a 3-month moratorium. The moratorium is on a case-by-case basis. We would assess the need. For all of our loans, we expect that you can show proof that you can get part of the funds elsewhere. So we expect you to give what we call an equity contribution, which is 5% of the loan amount. So that means for a 250,000 naira loan, 5% of that, if my math is still correct, that should be divided by 20. And if I do a quick division by 20, that is 12,500 naira. I want to believe I'm correct. Now, our interest rate is dependent on the loan program. So assuming it was the W initiative, which I had shared earlier, it will be a 10%. If it was for the generic loan, it will be at 9%. If it was for the LEAP tourism, unfortunately for the LEAP tourism and the edu loans, we do not recognize microenterprise startups because we want to see cash flow that yes, you have been running this business and it has at least a turnover that can support repayment. So it was a good thing that you had the session on finance and accounting earlier on. So I want to believe that you have, even if you've not grasped it completely, but at least you have a sense of what cash flow means or what turnover refers to, because it's from your business operations. Now, you would have there's some specific requirements that we need from you. Now, we would need you to provide your LASRA ID. LASRA stands for Lagos State Residents Association, because again, this is an intervention from Lagos State Employment Trust Fund, and it is through Lagos State taxpayers funds that we're able to provide this, even though some of them are in partnership with like the banks. So you have to show us that you are validly registered as a resident of Lagos State. You also need to show us your Lagos Internal Revenue Service tax identification. We would need your bank verification number because we would need to run credit checks on you. And again, as I said earlier, you need your vocational certificate. For the micro enterprise, you have to show that you have been in operations for at least 1 year. Now, you do not need to have a CAC registration for this business. However, you need to show us proof that you've been in operations. So what we typically request for is your bank statement. Because you do not need to give us your CAC document, we are willing to take your personal bank statement, but it is not ideal for you to run a business. So my tip to you today would be, if currently you run your business using your personal account, I'll tell you that it's not advisable. It is good to be able to separate yourself as an individual from your business as an entity. They are two different, you should see them as two separate entities, even if it is a business name. I know that for a business name, you and your business are recognized as one and the same. However, you should start to think futuristic. Are you going to run this business forever? Don't you want somebody else to be able to take over this business after you? So if that is your plan, you have a long-term plan for this business, then I would suggest that you separate your finances and you should pay yourself a salary so that you are not dipping your hands into your business finances, into your business fund. So we'll be looking at your personal account if it's a micro enterprise, and we'll be ensuring that we can see that, yes, you have turnover. Then the maximum loan size is 500,000 naira, and there's a maximum tenure of 12 months. There's no moratorium. Again, for all of our loans, we expect a security deposit, which you cannot touch until you have finished repaying the loan. Again, the interest rate is dependent on the loan program, and I would not talk about the other details which I had talked about, the last round and the rest. For the small and medium enterprise, this is for, again, businesses who have been in existence for at least 1 year, but you must be registered with Corporate Affairs Commission, either as a business name or as a limited liability, which is your certificate of incorporation. Now, the loan size is above 500,000 naira to a maximum of 5 million naira. And apologies, where you have maximum loan amount, apologies, it is supposed to be maximum loan amount of 5 million. And you have to demonstrate a turnover of at least 500,000 naira monthly. A turnover of at least 500,000 naira monthly. So that means we'll be requesting for your bank statement. If it is the W initiative loan, I must tell you that your turnover has to be on your corporate account. So please ensure that you have a business bank account and that your turnover on it from our assessment is up to 500,000 naira. Now for the edu loans, particularly if it's the LSCTF first edu loan, if you run a school, it is not just your turnover in terms of your bank statement, because we need to see that it is truly from your school business. I know some of you maybe in addition to running a school, maybe running other businesses. So it has to be verifiable school fees income if it is the edu loan you are going for. Now, again, you have to provide the other documentation that I had spoken about earlier. This is the application process for the generic loan, which I said you have to go to loans.lsctf.ng to apply. And this is for a maximum of 500,000 naira. So let's say you are not a female owned business, you are not a school business, and you do not play in the hospitality, tourism, entertainment sector, and you feel 500,000 naira is too small to run your business is too small as a loan. Let me advise you. It can take care of something. What loans really do for your business is it helps you free up some capital to be able to expand, to be able to scale. So I can tell you for a fact that 500,000 naira is not too small. Even if you are doing turnover of 5 million naira monthly, 500,000 naira loan size is not too small. You will never see this kind of 9% loan, single digit loan elsewhere. I can tell you that for a fact. And what you'll be doing with this is to establish a relationship with LSCTF, and you'll also be establishing credibility as someone that can take a loan and pay back. So sometimes people take loans not necessarily because they need the loan, but because it helps to show that they are credit worthy. Because who is faithful in small things is definitely going to be faithful in big things. That's one of the principles of life. Now, for the generic loans, because we have tried to make it automated, we expect you to have a valid debit card. That's what you would call your ATM card, because you would need to register the details so that you can repay. For your loan repayment, it will be taken straight up from your account through your debit card. We are in partnership with Paystack, Flutterwave, and the rest. Now, if you go to loans.lsctf.ng and you're finding it difficult, because this is what you would see when you click on loans.lsctf.ng, you will see new customer start application. It will tell you how to create an account. Now, by the time you already have an account and you need to return, you put in your email address and the password that you had created when you started the application to ask you for details, which I'll share later. If you think it's going to be complicated, you can go to apply.lsctf.ng. Once you click on apply.lsctf.ng, you'll see a link to watch a video, a how to apply video, which is also on YouTube. When we are sending the slides, we'll try and make this a clickable link, the YouTube link, so that once you click on it, you can also watch a step-by-step on how to apply for the generic loan, which is the maximum of 500,000 naira. So I'll just quickly talk about the LASTRA. For the LASTRA, you can quickly visit any of our local government, any of the local government areas or LCDAs, local council development areas closest to you to apply for a LASTRA identity card. If you are still finding it difficult, let's say you're not very technologically savvy, you need help with application, you can visit any of our liaison offices and we have people on ground to help you fill the forms or fill the application online. We have our liaison offices across all the local government areas and local council development areas across Lagos State. I think there are about, if I remember, over 35 LCDAs and over, I think about 23 local governments. Now, this is for the other loans, the ones that are not the generic loans. For this, if you go to click on your browser, or you type on your browser, lsctf.ng/content/MSME loan program, you would see a lot of these details I've already given you, as well as the requirements for each loan program, and then you click. Or you can just go straight up to apply.lsctf. This is the screen showing the video that I was talking about. Once you click on that video, it takes you to YouTube and you can watch. Now, if you choose your you see you see something written on that, choose your preferred program. It's a drop down. You click on it. The drop down contains the LSCTF-W initiative, the LSCTF First Edu, the LSCTF EdFin, the LSCTF tourism, and the LEAP tourism. It also has the Lagos Cares, which is a grant program, which is not, you don't have the details here, but I'll just give you an overview. The overview of the Lagos Cares is that it's a way to support and to help alleviate some of the effects of COVID-19 on businesses. It is a grant, it's a non-cash grant, meaning it's not like we are necessarily paying you money just like that. There are specifics attached to it. The first one is the operations grant. Now, for the operations grant, it is for businesses who, because of the impact of COVID-19, they are finding it difficult to pay salaries or pay utilities like rent or pay for power, that's pay for electricity. Through the Lagos Cares grant, we can assist you. You would have to fill an application for that. Again, through this choose your preferred program drop down, you can go straight to Lagos Cares. Another one is the IT grant. Now, for the IT grant, we can support your business acquire some tools and apps that would help you, conduct your business more efficiently and effectively. For example, maybe if you need a Zoom subscription or maybe a bookkeeping app, some things like that. Of course, you can also go there to apply. We also have the credit grant. The credit grant is for businesses who have taken a loan, but based on their loan, they've been paying the loan. So it's not like you've not been repaying. You've been repaying the loan because we don't want defaulters. However, since March, you've been struggling to pay back. You just have it, maybe you've had to borrow from family and friends to pay back, and you can show proof that you have a loan from the bank. You are struggling to pay, but you have been faithful in paying. We can support you in repaying part of that loan that you've taken from the bank. Going into details now for the W initiative, the LEAP tourism, the Edu loans, you would go to apply.lsctf. Like I've said, you have to have all this. It's a slightly different process from the generic loan. These are some of the details that you have to have handy before you apply for our loans. You need to be ready to provide your personal details, definitely your name, as it appears in your valid government-issued ID. So if, for example, your name has changed, maybe due to marriage or something else, you need to show an affidavit and a court affidavit and maybe police report in some instances to validate why your name has changed. You need to provide your date of birth, your email. You have to have a valid email address. You need to have your residential and your corporate or business address, your mobile number, your educational qualification, your bank verification number, like I said earlier, your LASTRA ID number. Now, if it's an existing business, that's the ME and the SME category, you need to provide information around your business turnover, your business expenses, your expected monthly turnover and expected monthly expenses if you get this loan. So that means you've already thought through how this loan will help your business, not just that you need money. Your monthly savings and your annual profits. Again, you will need to tell us the number of employees that you have, both full-time and contracts, including daily workers. Your business overview, you need to be able to tell us what your business is about. You need to be able to tell us how much you are requesting for, and we'll conduct our own assessments. So I'll just give you a caveat that you can apply for 5 million, but we'll also do our due diligence, and based on our due diligence, we may find a need to reduce the amount that you're requesting for, because we also want to be sure that you can pay back. You need to tell us the sector and the subsector. There's a drop down that will guide you in that. And again, you must have a valid government issued ID, which is your voter's card or your national identity card or your international passport or driver's license. Now, so this just gives you an overview of what I talked about. If you are running an SME and you registered your business, if you're applying for the SME category above 500,000 naira and you registered your business as a limited liability company, would also require your corporate tax identity, your TIN, which is issued by the FRS. Your bank statement is required for ME and SME. Personal bank statement is acceptable for ME. For SME, personal bank statement is on a case-by-case basis. So advisable that you have your corporate business account. So if you're on this call, you're running your business, you don't have a corporate account, or you have a corporate account that you open, but you're not running it, I would advise you to run it because banks typically will require you to have a corporate account. There are some exceptions, like for the Edu loans, you can accept bank statement because you would have to open a school account. But again, like I said, it is not across board. Then for the certificates, CAC certificate will be required if it is an SME. And not only your certificate, also your Form CO2 and your Form CO7. Now, for the monthly turnover, I talked about that one before, minimum 20,000 for ME and minimum 500,000 for SME. By pre-disbursement, what I mean here is that before the loan is disbursed by the bank, because we have banks that we work with, they are called fulfillment partners. Before the money is the fund is disbursed, typically you will be required to open an account. And into that account, you will have to deposit 5% equity, right? You need guarantors. We understand that sometimes when you are filling the form, the application, you would have given us a guarantor, but this guarantor may change. So you have another opportunity to change your guarantor. If it is an SME loan, we need two guarantors. They would also have things that they will need to present: LASTRA ID card, LRS, their own bank verification number, their personal guarantee. These are some of the forms that they will have to fill a guarantee form, showing that they are willing to pay back, and they have to demonstrate that they have the net worth to pay back. Now, they can either be a salary earner or a business owner. It doesn't really matter. But we also run credit checks on them. So these are some of the conditions before the money is disbursed. This just gives you an overview of everything that I've talked about. I will not go into details, but what I'll just try to talk about is what is highlighted in blue. Our target turnaround time from when you apply to when the loan is disbursed is 30 days, but you have to play your part in this, meaning that you have to ensure that everything required you provide as at when due, and you also have your guarantors on time, and every other thing that is requested of you, you provide. And on this note, I want to say thank you for listening, and I'm available for question and answer when it is time. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Ibadi. Thank you everyone for listening. I want to assure you that LSCTF is here to serve Lagos State residents. We have various financial opportunities to help your businesses to not only grow, but to scale. And like my colleague Ibadi mentioned, our process is seamless. As long as you follow the requirements and you submit all the necessary documentations, you have less than 30 days from when you apply to get a feedback from us. So thank you so much, Ibadi, once again for that. Before I go into the Q&A session, I would want to launch another poll. Please permit me. It's just going to take less than a minute. We are doing this so that we can ensure we can serve you better and make other sessions better. We want to know what topics would you want to know more about so we can meet your needs. And because our main mandate is to serve you and ensure that your businesses thrive, we need this feedback to help us serve you better. It would not take, I assure you, it would not take up to a minute. They're just 4 questions. So I would appreciate it if everyone can join in and just answer as quickly as possible, so we can know what topics to serve you with next time and how best to address different issues you would be having. It wouldn't take much of your time, just a less than 1 minute survey, and we can move on from here. Thank you. We still have people completing it. Please, let's just take out less than a minute and we can complete this survey. Thank you. We have 40%. We have 45% of people participating. I would employ everyone to complete this survey. It would be helpful for us for our next sessions. Thank you. Half of the attendees have submitted their responses. We're still waiting for the others. We still have about 30 seconds to go. Thank you. Before we go into the Q&A session, we have just 51% was submitted. Kindly, 20 seconds more. Please help us so we can serve you better. Ten seconds more, people. We have 60% completed. Please, everyone, just give us 1 minute of your time to continue to participate in this feedback channel so we can better serve you. We have 64% completed. We need a minimum of 90% completed. Please join and fill in your response. It would not take up to a minute of your time. Before we go into the Q&A session, kindly help us fill this survey so we can better address your issues and know the next topic we'll be treating at LSETF. We still have just 64%. People, please participate in this survey so we can move on to the next item on the agenda. We still have 64%, but I'm afraid I'll have to end the survey now so we can move on to Q&A. Thank you all to all those who submitted their response. So from this survey, we realized that 82% of attendees or those who participated find this session extremely useful. That's quite insightful. And then we asked, how do you store your financial records? Most people do soft copy, which is actually good. So we know that technology is important in terms of helping us to store and record our documents for longevity. So thank you for that. It's good to know that we're doing both soft and hard copy documentations. Okay, for our next future webinar sessions, most people want to know more about grant opportunities at LSETF. Okay, this is noted. And then 100% of the attendees who participated in this survey would be implementing what they have learned today. Thank you all. Thank you all so much for this. Now we'll be going on to the question and answer session. We had a couple of questions that had already been answered. A number of people asked if the presentation will be shared, and our response is yes, after the session. And then someone mentioned if they will be getting the recordings of this session. Yes, you can log on to you can follow us on our YouTube channel and you would be seeing the recording of this particular session. So feel free to watch and rewatch again to gain as much information and knowledge as you would need for your business. So we have some unanswered questions. This is for Ibadi. Someone is asking, the annual interest to be paid, is it the interest realized from investing or from the loan given?
Okay, thank you very much. It's from the loan given. So, but you pay it on a monthly basis, right? So it's computed and it is on reducing balance. What that means is the 9% is calculated on the principal. So once you have paid up part of the principal and the interest for the month, you know that the principal would have reduced. So when the interest is calculated again for the next month, it will reduce again. So the highest interest you will pay in month 1, and subsequently it will be going down. So that's what reducing balance means. So the short answer is from the loan given. I guess I've answered.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Ibadi. Another person, Ibrahim Isaac, wants to know if someone opens a business branch in Lagos, is that business considered as a startup by your organization?
Okay, so what we use to determine startup is that it is something that is not incorporated. So if your business was already incorporated elsewhere and you're extending that to Lagos, then you know it will not qualify as a startup. A startup is that you don't have it anywhere else, or even if you said, okay, the business is elsewhere, not in Lagos, but it was not formally incorporated, and you can prove that it's not formally incorporated, it can be considered. But again, don't forget that the maximum loan size for the startup is 250,000 naira, because we have to manage our risk, because we want to believe that since it's still at that idea stage, it's not 100% guaranteed to succeed. I mean, it's our hope it succeeds, but again, we need to be realistic. So I would say it's a yes and a no. It's a yes in the sense that if it's not incorporated anywhere else and you just want to start it in Lagos and incorporate it in Lagos, and you have the relevant vocational certification, we can recognize it as a startup.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I hope that answers your question, Ibrahim. Then we also have another question for you, Ibade. What is the difference between First Edu loan and also the EdFin loan?
Okay, so I like that you see that they are both Edu loans. Number one difference is that the First Edu is in partnership with First Bank. The EdFin is in partnership with EdFin Microfinance Bank. So the partnerships are different. And because the partnerships are different, there are some slightly different requirements. So if I take First Edu, for example, which is with First Bank, the minimum school population is 100. That means the school has to have at least 100 pupils or students. For EdFin, the minimum is 50. It doesn't mean EdFin cannot take above 100 pupils, but as in a school with more than 100 pupils, but it means that they are willing to go lower to 50 pupils. Another difference is that the one with First Bank, like I said, we do not only look at turnover, also the school fees collection. First Bank is very particular about school fees collection. EdFin Microfinance Bank is willing to consider additional income. insofar as you can prove that that additional income is consistent. So those are some of the little differences between the first edu and the edu loan.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for that. I want to believe this next question is also directed to you, Ibade. Someone wants to know what withholding tax is all about, as well as how many percent is it currently?
That's a finance question. I'm sorry. That's for Greg.
Okay, Greg, I think you should take the stage here.
Yes, it is indeed. It is a finance question, and I think we'll let Ibade off on that one. Yeah, so withholding tax is a tax deducted at source for certain goods and services rendered. In Nigeria, withholding tax is currently 10%, and it must be noted that when you render those services, you get a withholding tax credit from the people that you may have rendered the service to. And with that withholding tax credit, you can actually use that withholding tax credit in offsetting your CIT, your company income tax. Thank you.
Does that answer your question? Okay, so we also have another question here. Please bear with us. Someone wants to know, this is for you, Ibade, if you can answer that. When would LSCTF release the grant beneficiary names? Do you have an answer to that question, Ibade?
Unfortunately, I don't have an answer, but what I can do for you, Michael, either you send me an email, I'll drop my email in the chat room. Either you send me an email, or afterwards you can reach out to our call center and they can link you to somebody in the Lagos Cares team. So I don't know which one you would prefer. I'll also put a phone number for you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, Ibade. We also have another question here. For contracting SME company, do you give loans since they may not get contracts every month? Okay, so
that's a very tricky one to be honest. It's tricky because yes, we need you to be able to repay on a monthly basis. Therefore you have to have cash flow on a monthly basis. But if it's only contracting that you do, that's where it's tricky. But I want to believe that you would have multiple contracts running at the same time. And if it's such that there's an income coming in every month that is demonstrable from your bank statement, then it won't be so much of an issue. So my answer right now is convoluted because it's not so straightforward. I don't want to give you a straight no. So it would be nice if the person that asked that question can confirm if my answer suits you.
Okay, if you need more further details, I think you should just reach out to Ibade so that we can get better clarity on this contracting part of your business. Then I have a final question. Okay, it's also regarding the contracting company actually. If a contracting company has a project but no funds to execute, do you have loan for sure?
Okay, so first things first, this contracting company, is it that they only rely on contracts to work? It's very tricky, like I said. We need guaranteed cash flow. If it's a case of they are guaranteed that for the next 2 years, this contract would be available to them. There's a letter to that effect, something like that. And they can show track record of past contracts that they've fully executed. And then their bank statement can support it. It's something that we can look at. Again, it is not a straightforward. Everything at the end of the day is going to be assessed on a case-by-case basis.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Ibade, for this very informative session. I want to believe everyone has been able to gain something meaningful from these presentations. And if we have any other questions, please feel free to post it still before we conclude on today's presentation.
Sorry,
I think I saw some, okay, sorry.
Sorry,
Yeah, some people raised up their
asking.
hands, I noticed.
Yes.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, we are here.
Okay.
Okay. Ibade, someone has a better clarity on this construction company. They said, okay, for this contracting company, they said if it's a construction company, does that bring a bit of clarity?
It's still so I think I'd already answered it on that, from that perspective. The construction company, that means you've run projects in the past and you have shown that you were able to execute them properly. You've shown that maybe there's cash flow coming in. There are different kinds of construction companies. If it's that you are the one, maybe a real estate company and you are building an estate, for example, it is only when you have finished that maybe you then get people to, or if you've collected money from people to start it off and people have paid, then you don't have guaranteed inflow. But if it's a construction company that you're constructing for another company, like you were contracted to construct for another company, so that means if you have terms and you have an agreement, and they've told you how they're going to pay back, whether it's on a monthly basis, whether it's quarterly, and the likes. Whatever the case is, it's good that we have specific details that we can discuss offline, and you can put in your application.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. I don't think we have any more hands up. Greg, would you like to say a final speech to our attendees?
Well, yes, thank you very much, Taiwo. Once again, I thank everybody for joining today's webinar. I usually tell people that we need to take steps in the right direction, and the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. Today, we've taken the step that really showcases what financial statements are. And of course, LSCTF have also showcased how you can actually access the LSCTF loans. Please look at this webinar again, look at the slides again, and please take, there are opportunities that you can actually fester on. Please fester on those opportunities. And we are also here. We have a lot of experience as SSAC. We'll be happy to give you whatever assistance that may be required. I thank you all, and I wish you all the best with your businesses, and I wish you a very nice day ahead. Thank you most sincerely. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Ibade, do you have a final speech for us?
Yes, thank you. But before I talk about mine, I'd like to put Greg on the spot. Please, what is SSAC? I know I shouldn't be asking here, but for the benefit of those on the call.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, Ibadi. Well, when we set up shop some 36 years ago, we set up shop as SS Afemicare Consulting. Now we have recently rebranded the company, and the rebrand was in response to the times of the day, and also trying to serve our customers better. So we have now rebranded the company to SSAC Advisory and Professionals. But for short, we can just call it SSAC. Thank you.
Fantastic. I like that. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, everyone that has been part of this today. Lagos State Employment Trust Fund, as a job, an enabler of jobs, does this through different routes, like we said earlier, just for the benefit of those who didn't join us from the beginning. So we want them, we empower Lagos State residents through entrepreneurship and opportunities, employability opportunities as well. So feel free and please, it would be nice that you follow us on social media, because through that you then get to know what we have available. We also are big on, helping with access to markets. I know Taiwo mentioned that earlier. So it goes beyond financing, even in terms of access to partnerships, because it's also something that we are big on. You may not need finance at this point in time, or you may need money, but if you get somebody who can assist you, or someone who requires your services, then it may not necessarily need a bank loan, right? Doesn't mean that bank loans don't have their place, but just follow us on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and the likes, so that way you can keep abreast of what we have to offer. And so on that note, I say thank you. I'm seeing quickly, if you pardon me. Okay, somebody said the withholding tax is 5% in Nigeria. We get this deduction every time and have our credit note. The scholar
let me just speak to that very briefly. It depends on the type of service that's being rendered. But for example, for professional services, withholding tax is 10% in Nigeria. So it varies between 5 and 10%, but for most services and goods rendered, it's 10%.
All right, thank you.
Thank you,
Taiwo.
Thank you, Mr. Greg. Do you have any other thing from your team, from your end?
No. Well, with me, team. Okay. No, I think we're good, and we just want to thank you for partnering with us on this webinar.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for attending, and we hope you gained wonderful insights, and we hope to serve you better. Thank you, and we are calling it. We're ending this webinar now, and do have a very productive day. Thank you, and bye-bye.